What do Rocky Balboa, the Terminator, and Chuck Norris have in common? They're all played by men who risked it all to follow Jesus. You think you know these tough guys, but trust me, you don't. Here's what really drives the warriors behind the legends. Sylvester Stallone. You might also know him as the Italian Stallion. Sylvester Stallone is the type of guy who could take a beating and keep coming back for more. You know him, you've cheered for him, but here's something you might have missed. Every single Rocky movie starts out with the same image, that of Jesus Christ overlooking the ring. Now, this wasn't an accident, but don't take our word for it.
People don't realize the first shot is the shot of Christ, and it comes down over the beams of the church. It says resurrection, then it goes to Rocky being pummeled. And what I was trying to say is this man has been chosen for a journey.
But faith isn't just a subplot for the Rocky franchise. It's also the foundation of everything Stallone has built over his long-standing career. He made no secret of the fact that he isn't immune to the many challenges Hollywood A-listers face off camera.
I was raised strict Catholic, and then when I got to Hollywood, and all of a sudden you're given the keys to the candy stores and temptation abounds. And I started to believe my own publicity. No question, I admit it. I just lost my way.
But Jesus helped him get right back on the right track.
And I really decided to take things out of my own hands and put it in God's hands, because I always felt I was chosen to do something.
Even now at 78, starring in Tulsa King, Stallone knows where his strength comes from, saying, Jesus is the inspiration for anyone to go the distance. You could compare his courage to that of David, who as the epic underdog defeated the giant Goliath in battle. The Italian Stallion's greatest victories weren't won in any ring. They were always anchored in faith. But if you think Stallone's transformation was dramatic, wait until you hear what the one and only Star-Lord had to go through to achieve greatness. Chris Pratt Star-Lord, Owen Grady, Andy Dwyer. Chris Pratt plays heroes that millions look up to. But here's what most people don't know. The man behind the mask is fighting his own battles with nothing but faith as his weapon. Before he was saving the galaxy, Pratt was living in a van in Hawaii, working just enough to cover food and fishing supplies. But God had bigger plans. His breakthrough came at Bubba Gump's Shrimp Company, where he was discovered waiting tables. From homeless to Hollywood hero in one moment. But fame brought new challenges. When his son was born 9 weeks premature, Pratt and his wife turned to prayer. Their prayers were answered, and Chris never forgot who held his life together. Today, he's one of Hollywood's most outspoken Christians, and he doesn't care who has a problem with it. When critics attack his faith, Pratt circles back to Jesus.
It's the way it is. It ain't nothing new. 2,000 years ago, they hated him too.
And when you take into account the chaotic environment that Hollywood usually is, Pratt's approach to faith is set in stone. I think there's a distinction between being religious, adhering to the customs created by man, oftentimes appropriating the awe reserved for who I believe is a very real God. It's pretty clear that Chris Pratt's on a mission, and this mission is pretty simple. Be thankful for what you've got and always give back.
Nothing fills my soul more than to think that maybe some kid watching that would say, hey, I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about praying. Let me try that out, That's like the only way I feel like I could repay what has essentially been a giant gift in my life.
And when Hollywood pushes back, as it so often does, Pratt then pushes harder.
Oh, just how you deal with anything, just like a rhino. You stick your head down, you keep driving forward, you have thick skin, and if anyone gets in your way, you stick the horn right up their ass.
So what's his secret, you might ask?
If I was of this world, they would love me just like that. But as it is, I'm chosen out of this world.
And isn't that what real courage looks like? Choosing conviction over comfort, even when the whole world is watching? But speaking of strength, you'll never guess what the internet's ultimate tough guy actually believes about his own power. Chuck Norris doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth down. Chuck Norris counted to infinity, twice. You've seen the memes, and you definitely know the legend. He's the man the internet crowned invincible. But when he sat down to write a column and respond to the popular Chuck Norris facts, he shifted his perspective onto something far more important. There was a man whose tears could cure cancer or any other disease, including the real cause of all diseases, sin. His blood did. His name was Jesus, not Chuck Norris. If your soul needs healing, the prescription you need is not Chuck Norris tears, it's Jesus' blood. That takes guts in Hollywood, an industry famous for causing young and successful people's downfall way before their time.
I know a lot of actors, and just look in their eyes. They try to be happy, but you can see that they're not. And you see them out partying, trying to fill that void.
And Chuck Norris's way of dodging the same fate?
And and the actors I meet that have their faith, you can see the brightness in their eyes. And the ones that don't have it, you can see that darkness in their eyes. And so I just say, try it. Try your faith. Just try it out and see. if it works for you, I know it will. It worked for me.
But Chuck's not the only legend who refuses to play Hollywood's game. Wait until you meet the man who literally made his own rules, Kevin Sorbo. He played the legendary hero who could move mountains and battle gods. Yes, we're talking about playing the one and only Hercules. Well, for 7 whole years, Kevin Sorbo embodied ultimate strength on screen, and the show became the most watched TV show in the world across no less than 176 countries. But Hollywood had a different plan for the man behind the myth. When Sorbo started questioning liberal talking points on set, the industry turned ice cold. Then his agent and manager delivered the news, "We can't represent you anymore." And just like that, Hollywood's Hercules was blacklisted.
I love to say if you're a Christian or conservative in Hollywood, that's about being like a double leopard. That's what it really comes down to. So I became more vocal about it probably about 12 years ago. My wife said, "Careful." I said, "You know what? I'm just questioning people when I hear people say certain things in the set." And I go, "Why do you say that? How do you have proof this person's a racist? How do you have proof that this person, whatever it may be?" And they love their labels. They don't have any proof behind it all. But it got to the point my manager and the agent called me in. They said, "We can't represent you anymore." And I said, "Why?" And I was basically blackballed from Hollywood. I was put on the blacklist because being a conservative was enough. And I was blown away by it, because I said, I've been in business for, now 35 years. But at that time it was 25 years, 26 years. And I said, wait a minute. You guys always scream about tolerance and freedom of speech, but those are one-way streets with them.
Most actors would have backed down, yet Sorbo doubled down. His faith journey started at 13 when he attended a Billy Graham crusade with 250,000 people.
And I went up there and I sat in the grass, just talking to the guy. I was 13, the guy was 30, so he's like a really old guy to me, And we're talking, and all of a sudden a hand went in my head, and I turned around, and it was the Reverend Billy Graham. And his head was covering the moon perfectly, so it was a glow, this glow being behind him.
That moment never really left him. So when Hollywood booted him out, that's when Sorbo found his true calling. He started making movies that mattered. God's Not Dead, Let There Be Light, the upcoming Left Behind film where he plays the lead.
Well, don't let anyone set your limitations, for one thing, especially yourself. I know that, there's a lot of failure in life, and you're going to fail in life over and over again. A lot of people are afraid of failure. Maybe they fail once, and then they start blaming God. God never promised an easy life for any of us in this world. So you got to find a way to get past those failures and look at them as positive.
And thus, here's how the man who played a mythical hero discovered something even better. And that's becoming a real one. But even Hercules' challenges pale compared to what this wrestling legend is battling against.
So what you gonna do when Hulk Hogan and the XWF run wild on you?
For decades, this voice meant one thing and one thing only. The ultimate good guy was in the house. Hulk Hogan dominated wrestling for 40 years, becoming a global icon that transcended sports entertainment. But the real fight was happening outside the ring. Behind the muscles and the mustache, Terry Bollea was drowning. Fame, fortune, and the pressure to be Hulk Hogan 24/7 created a monster he couldn't control.
I get sick and tired of myself. The two people in my head, the ego and the real I am. I just surrendered. I just said I can't do it anymore.
But the real breaking point came when Hogan realized he'd been living a lie. The character that made him millions was killing the man inside.
I accepted Christ as my Savior when I was 14, but I derailed. It wasn't my life. He has given me the opportunity to prove that I'm faithful and I'll never make those same mistakes again.
Then in 2015, Hogan made the ultimate power move, a public baptism at Clearwater Beach. No cameras, just a broken man finding his way back to God.
It broke down that fourth or fifth wall to tell people the truth about my Lord and Savior, how, you should look at things or how you should care for people and not judge people. And it set me free. It wasn't that perfect vessel that I should be or should have been. Once I was baptized, I felt I was all anew. It really was a major pivot in my life.
Now, when Hogan goes home, he's a completely different man.
The headband comes off the bald head, and, it's just Terry. Dad, father, husband, friend. I have no wrestling pictures in my house. I have no wrestling belts, just Terry.
Now he can answer his famous "what you gonna do" question all by himself.
It's a spiritual war in this fallen world to turn to the truth. Seek him and you shall find.
But from one kind of strength to another, you won't believe what this NFL linebacker discovered about real power. Terry Crews. Remember this guy? The linebacker who could crush you with his bare hands? The Old Spice commercial king who made his pecs dance? Well, Terry Crews looked invincible. But here's the truth. He'd been fighting a secret war since he was 9 years old. Pornography addiction. And for almost 20 years of marriage, his wife had no idea. Then she found out.
Knowing, there were times I would come home and she'd be in tears, and I know it was because of me.
The confrontation that followed nearly ended everything.
And she was like, no, in fact, I want to stay, but I gotta go. That hurts a woman. I mean, that's to the core.
That's when this 250-pound giant did something the old Terry would never consider. He said, I picked up the phone and did something the younger me would never have considered. I called my pastor. Growing up in Flint, Michigan, Terry thought faith meant hiding weakness. His alcoholic father taught him that vulnerability was dangerous. Real men don't cry. Real men don't ask for help. But watching his wife walk away taught him something incredibly important. Who was stronger and yet more vulnerable than Jesus? Crews now asks. So Terry made the ultimate tough guy move. He got honest. He risked his entire tough guy brand to help other men fighting the same battle. The more you try to hide it, the stronger it gets. But when everybody knows your issue, you sweep it away. Today, Crews hosts the Movie Guide Awards and openly credits his praying wife for saving their marriage. She has prayed us through so many things. The man who once flexed for cameras now flexes his principles. And that's power you can't fake. But if you think Terry's honesty was brave, wait until you hear about the actor who literally risked everything to play Jesus, Jim Caviezel, the Passion of the Christ. You've seen it. You know the controversy. But here's what you don't know. Hollywood has never forgiven him for it. During filming, Jim was struck by lightning, dislocated his shoulder, and suffered hypothermia. Yet all that physical pain was nothing compared to what came after.
Do you know, more Christians, these modern-day Christians, are more afraid of the devil than they are of God.
In an industry where faith is a career killer, Jim doubled down.
And I was scared for a moment, and then this peace came over me. And I could feel it. It was from heaven. And I said, look, man, we're all called to carry our cross. If you don't pick up and carry your cross, you will be crushed by the weight of it.
Fast forward to now, and we've got Sound of Freedom, his latest film about child trafficking. And once again, Hollywood tried to bury it, but the fans made it #1. Did this rejection affect me personally? Well, everyone has their cross to bear. But hey, in the end, none of us will live in this world forever. Not even those Hollywood producers. At some point, everyone will have to answer for what they have done. There you have it, 7 tough guys who discovered that real strength comes from something bigger than themselves. What's your warrior code? What principles will you live by when nobody's watching? If this inspired you, hit subscribe for more stories of faith-changing lives in unexpected places. Because God is on the move, and He's not just changing hearts, He's moving mountains.